Hi everyone, welcome to Eye of the East Coast. My name is Kalina, and today we have Nerissa Anders on. Hi Nerissa, how are you?
I'm very well, Kalina, thank you. How are you?
Good. So today we're going to be talking about tarot and palm reading. So for the listeners, can you please explain what is tarot?
Yes, well, simply put, tarot is a deck of 78 cards that is not dissimilar to our modern playing decks in that it's divided into 4 suits, numbered ace to 10. Those suits would be swords, wands, cups, and pentacles. Instead of a jack, a queen, and a king, we have the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. And in addition to these, what we call minor arcana cards, there are an additional 22 major arcana cards. And I suppose every one of these cards depicts a range of experience or a spectrum of energy that is universally felt for all human beings. Everybody experiences love, for instance. Everybody experiences loss, pain. Everybody has the potential to overcome their obstacles. Everybody has talent. So all of these cards sort of depict a range of human experience is the best way I could put it, I suppose.
And what is the history of tarot?
The history of tarot is shrouded in a lot of mystery. There are a lot of myths about where it originates. It's been strongly associated with the Romani gypsy, and there's some evidence to believe the Romani gypsy had brought it to Western Europe from Egypt. It's been associated with the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian order, and people who believe that the Knights Templar brought it back from the Crusades. Some people believe an order of wise men and women gathered together at the Great Library of Alexandria after it burnt to the ground in an effort to preserve all of the knowledge that was lost in a way that was portable and easily shared between people. We don't really know for sure. What we do know is that the earliest surviving complete tarot deck is called the Visconti Sforza, and it comes from the early 1400s, probably from Milan. It's not actually a complete deck. There are about 15 of these decks surviving in different private collections and in different museums around the world. And it depicted noble life in early Milan. There are references, I suppose, to tarot that date a little bit earlier than that, but I mean, that's the best I can do.
No, I didn't know about the Alexander. That's interesting. And how did you start your journey with tarot?
I think it helps to understand a little bit about my background. I was born into a family that was always very open about psychic experiences and paranormal activity. My mother, for instance, sees and talks to spirits on a regular basis. She's always known things about people and made predictions. I have a great aunt who is a professional astrologer. Apparently my grandmother and my great-grandmother had significant psychic ability. And I see it in the children born into our family even now. So it was definitely an environment that was very tolerant of and even encouraging of my interests. And for me, I think those interests began, they stem back to my early childhood experiences of having spontaneous out-of-body experiences and astral travel experiences and seeing colors around people and in their footprints and in objects that they touched. And it wasn't until I was maybe a little bit of an older child and, hanging out with my friends and sleeping over and having a little bit more insight into their homes and families that I realized that not everybody talks about these things openly. Not everybody has these experiences. And it was around that same time frame, I suppose, I got my first library card. And you have to remember, this is before the days of the internet. And I realized there are books about these subjects. I could read about out-of-body experience and ESP and astral travel and I guess from there was just a hop, skip, and jump away from reading about numerology and astrology, for instance, and tarot, of course. And I think these types of books gave me a strong foundation for understanding tarot later, but it wasn't until I was 19 and I met the man who would later become my husband that I received my first tarot deck. And it was a gift from him. It was a birthday present. And once I had that deck in my hands, I realized how powerful a tool it really was. It was love at first sight. I just felt that I had finally found a language or a tool that I could channel this energy or this information that was coming to me in a way that was maybe more applicable to people or more helpful to people. And I guess at that point in my life, we had bought 26 acres of land at the end of a dirt road in this real rural area of Cape Breton, and I had a lot of time in my hands, and I basically just devoted the next several years to studying tarot. I read every book I could get my hand on. I was putting orders in at the library, for books across Canada, and kind of practicing, and it was an interesting time for me. I think after my son was born, something happened, something shifted. I almost died during his delivery, and I began to experience a real renewal of that kind of sensitive energy again. And at a certain point, I just decided to hang my shingle out and say, this is what I do, this is who I am. And I started out by just putting up 6 hand-drawn posters up around town, and it took about a month, I think, for the first person to have enough courage to come and see what I do. And after that, the news kind of just spread like wildfire, and that was my beginning of my professional tarot journey.
Okay. For the listeners learning tarot, what do you suggest to help them with the journey?
I would say it's important to have a solid foundation, a solid understanding of what these cards mean. I mean, there's a very rich culture and history associated with it, and to read as much as you can, Barbara Moore, Mary K. Greer, Stuart Kaplan, Joan Bunning, the new authors, the old authors, it will seem confusing at first. It will seem contradictory, but I think the more you're able to absorb and practice, the more you're able to kind of understand how it makes sense to you. Some of the exercises that I did would be like to draw a card at the beginning of the day and try to write down what I believe that card meant, what types of energies it described. And then I'd go back at the end of the day and I'd write a journal entry, and I'd try to see how it had applied to my day. And when you feel comfortable, have your friends and family sit down and give you feedback, and really just sort of don't be afraid to develop your own style and your own insight.
One question I get a lot from my students is, how can they trust the tarot, or how can they trust themselves when they read the tarot? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yes, let's see. I think that, I guess, again, having a solid knowledge of what the cards represent will give you a confidence. It's like learning to read or learning a new language. You need to have that vocabulary. But in terms of trusting your instinct or your intuition and how that information applies to that person, what I would have to say is that there's a feeling of knowing that comes over me that feels like peace. It just, despite what the information is, whether it's information that you think that person wants to hear or information that you're unsure of whether you should share or not, there's a feeling of a peace of mind that comes with knowing when you're looking at a piece of the truth. It's not scary. It's not... I don't know how to explain it. It just feels very peaceful.
I understand. I know what you're talking about. That makes sense. So we're going to change direction a bit with the interview. We're going to talk about, because you're also a palm reader. So for the listeners, can you explain what is palm reading?
Yes, I guess palm reading to me, when I look at someone's palm and I look at the shape of their hand and the lines in their hand and the markings and the colors, it's really like looking at a roadmap of that person's life or that person's personality, a person's strengths and weaknesses and tendencies. There's when you look at someone's dominant hand, the hand that they write with, we usually associate that hand with their free will, their influence in creating their own future. When we look at the non-dominant hand, it's often associated with the past. We think of like their early childhood influences, or even the karma that they were born into this world with. Sometimes you'll see information about people's past lives. And so, there are definitely certain lines and areas of the palm that are associated with certain qualities. It's really great to have a background knowledge in astrology for this reason. Certain areas of the palm are associated with different planets and the characteristics associated with those planets. But I guess there's a little bit of psychometry that plays into my palm readings as well, which is just from a more intuitive side of things, holding that person's hand and looking at the lines in their hand, sometimes I'll just sort of see images associated with that person. It's a little bit different than with a tarot card reading, where I can say, okay, are we talking about money? Are we talking about your health? Are we, I'm given a greater tool to answer very specific questions with a tarot card reading. With a palm reading, I'm seeing often more images associated with that person, sometimes just people or objects or places, and I don't necessarily always know what that means. So I've tried to learn to trust this instinct as well, and just tell the client what I'm seeing. And often people are very generous in their feedback in telling me who that person is that I'm seeing, why that makes sense to them, what that place or that object is to them. And so it's been I've had some very interesting conversations over palm readings.
And for the listeners, how can they learn palm reading?
I suppose there are definitely, palm reading is a very old art. There's evidence that it goes back 7,000 years. There's a whole Indian school of palm reading. There's a Western approach. And again, I would encourage people to read everything that they can get their hands on, and just see what clicks with them. The most important thing is that you feel that you are empowered with a tool that you feel makes sense to you, that you feel comfortable with. So don't be afraid to start at the beginning. Everybody starts at the beginning, and to trust your own instinct and your own style. Write things down. Sometimes, things don't make sense until 3 months later. Dive right in. There are a lot of really great books out there, authors out there, and just practice.
I think that's a really good tip. And I just want to apologize to listeners because my voice is starting to go because I'm fighting a cold. So if my voice keeps cracking, I'm sorry. And the next question, I get this question a lot. How does a phone reading work?
Oh, yes, I get this question a lot too, because a lot of people think that you need to be right in front of the person, that it has to do with the physical proximity of the person, and it doesn't. I did in-person readings for many, many years before I had certain clients ask me about phone readings. And so I have to say that I started out being a skeptic myself, not understanding how it could possibly work. And it was actually some of my clients that encouraged me to take this step. And I deeply believe that we are all connected energetically. That doesn't have anything to do with the distance. There are reports of amazing sort of distance healings that take place. You can think of it, in a way, the way prayer can affect people from a distance. When you phone me for a phone reading, I establish a voice connection, or at least that's what I call it. Sometimes I'll ask people to just repeat their full name or give their birthday. A lot of time they don't even realize I'm doing it, and it's simply just through a little bit of chit-chat. Hello, how are you doing? I'm very well, thank you. How are you? That I'm able to tune into their energy. I sort of set the intention, to draw the cards that best represent their circumstances and the information that they need to know. The reading unfolds basically in exactly the same way that it would if you were in front of me.
I like that. And for the listeners, how can they reach you or get a hold of you if they're looking for a reading?
Well, you can look me up on my website, www.nerissastarotreadings.com. Nobody gets my name right the first time around, so I'll spell it out for you. It's N like Nancy, ERISSA. So it's nerissastarotreadings.com. I'm also on Facebook, Nerissa's Tarot Readings. And my email address, Nerissa_Anders, ANDERS, @yahoo.ca.
And you have a workshop coming up if you want to give them a bit of details on that.
Yes, this is something that's still in progress. I'm hoping to give this workshop at the Halifax Yoga Studio on Purcell's Cove Road. It's going to be about balancing the chakras through tarot. And so it's just one of the many, many ways tarot can be used as a tool. It's not only used for divining. It could be used on meditating, for spell work, for all kinds of things. And so I'm probably going to be leading people through guided visualization to help center and ground your energy and bring awareness to, try to channel energy to and open up the 7 chakras. And then we're going to be looking at the 21 major arcana cards. There are actually 22. The first major arcana card, the Fool, numbered 0, is going to be applied to all of the 7 chakras, but the remaining 21 chakras I'm dividing up. Three major arcana cards that are applied to each of the 7 chakras, and we're going to be exploring which energies we need to be working on, to bring those chakras into balance.
That's going to be an interesting class. Thank you so much thank you so much for coming on, Nerissa.
Thank you, Clea, for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Before we get into the weekly readings, just a couple of announcements. The first one is Tracy and I will be doing a talk at the Great Awakening Expo 2014 in Enfield. Tracy and I will be talking at 1:30. It's at the Enfield Legion starting at 9 a.m. Our talk will be about how the Guardians use, on the surface it may look like stress, but it's their way of saying that, you know what, maybe this situation's not the best. So examples of that would be jealousy, guilt, regret. That's what we're going to be talking about. Other shows on Each Radio is Anne's Rock Show, Mondays at 5 p.m. Atlantic, Steven's Unsigned Madness on Wednesdays at 5 p.m., and Chuck's Boombox America, which is at 6:30 Atlantic. For information for Tracy and I, we are on Facebook, Reiki with a Twist for Tracy, Kalina Psychic Readings for me, I have East Coast for the show. We're also on Twitter. Okay, so we'll just get into the readings. And this is for September 29th to October 6th. For Aries. Aries, this week you're going to feel the need for, they're showing changes, like positive changes, and they're also showing the energy of Phoenix working with you. So this is a week where you may start recognizing that you've outgrown a situation. They're making me feel that it has to do more with path than anything else. And they're also asking to focus a wee bit more on your dreams. There's a lot of dream energy coming your way. Taurus, they're focusing on friendship, and the friendship that they're focusing on here is, it's a male energy, someone who is, I would almost feel like he's a little bit more fiery and more passionate than normal, but there's something here that they're asking you to put some gentle boundaries on, because if we have a friendship where it's unbalanced, it's not fair to us. So what they're showing here with this gentleman is it's okay to put some gentle boundaries around him. Gemini, they're focusing on breaking through illusions. When Guardians use the word illusions, what they mean is you may not be seeing the whole situation. It's not that something's being hidden or deceitful or anything like that, but just maybe you're not seeing the whole picture. They're just asking here that if you feel like you're missing information or that you need to see more, it's okay to take a step back and let it settle. Cancer, they're focusing quite a bit on career this week. They're also showing new opportunities or new projects. She's also saying, showing courses or schoolwork coming your way. They're making me feel you may be like reading more books more than normal, but it has to do with career. Leos, Leos, there's a happy news coming your way, and they're also showing here a difficult decision that you made, but they're making me feel that it was back in end of July, August is going to pay off, because they're showing here that there's something that you're going to win. That's the best way I could describe it, and there's something you're going to be proven right. They're also asking to focus on writing a bit more, just to help clear out some of the energy. Virgos, this is a month, or I'm sorry, this is a week to really focus on saving and getting organized. They're focusing on household energy, like if you're doing renovations or anything like that, get organized now. They're also showing here that there's a friend from the past that it may be a good idea just to check up on them to see how they're doing. Libras, this is a week for you to really speak your truth and speak from your heart. They're focusing on standing your ground, and also to don't underestimate yourself. This is a week to be clear. Scorpios, they're focusing on a celebration coming your way, but this is a celebration that was not given. This is a celebration that was earned. And they're also focusing on recognizing how far you've come along. Sagittarius, they're focusing on, they're saying classes. They're making me feel there may be a class coming your way that normally wouldn't be your cup of tea, like if it's maybe like ballroom dancing or something. They're asking to kind of be open to looking into it. And Sagittarius, they're focusing a little bit more on your freedom. You need more freedom more than normal. So if you need time on your own, please don't feel guilty. Capricorns, are focusing on planning a trip or looking into a trip, because they're showing here a lot of worldly energy. Sorry, she's saying worldly energy. That's her words. I'll just leave that. That's how they're translating. And they're also focusing on connecting with ancestors. Aquarius, they're just focusing on resting for you. They're just making me feel that you may feel a little bit burnt out or more tired or depleted than normal. They're asking maybe like Reiki, acupuncture, anything like that. That would be really good for you right now. And it's also they're asking you to connect a little bit more with nature among the trees or the water. Pisces, they're focusing on, I'm going to say dreams again. They're making me feel that you're going to be given messages from your guardians and your spirits in dreams that are going to be a little bit louder. And what I tell our students when it comes to dream work, the weirder the dream, stronger the message. So just maybe have a dream dictionary or look online to some of the messages. So that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.